In this video, we'll take a look at example 4, which is again going to serve as a nice summary of all the different ideas and definitions that we've seen so far in this section. So let's see what this question says. Kyle wants to know the average number of credit hours being taken by all of his students. Let's assume this is all of the students that are in our class this semester. Let's fill out the following table, and I can imagine taking a sample when necessary. All right. So first I can start off with my population and my sample. Remember that these are who questions, right? Like, who am I interested in looking at? Okay, well, population, that's the large group, right? So out of all the individuals, right, what or who am I interested in looking at? Well, apparently I'm interested in looking at my students, right? And I want to know something about all the students in class this semester. Okay, now the problem doesn't really specify a sample, but I could imagine taking a sample, right? Maybe I could imagine taking a sample of like 6 students, right? Maybe I could like go to our class roster and I could just select 6 individuals that I would individually go and sample. So I could come up with that. I could say maybe this would be something like 6 selected students from the class, right? That could serve as a sample. Okay. Now, I could then start to ask a question about my parameter and my statistic. Keep in mind, these are more like what questions, as in, what is it that I want to know about all the students in the class or the 6 students from the class? Well, this isn't something you ever have to guess at. The question has to tell you, or this would be an impossible question. So notice that very first sentence tells me that I want to know the average number of credit hours being taken by my students. So my parameter would be the average number of credit hours taken by, well, let's see, since I'm dealing here with a parameter, I know that that's tied back to the population. So I want to know the average number of credit hours taken by all students in the class, right? So I'm dealing with the population. The statistic is going to start the same way. I still want to know the average number of credit hours taken by, but now, since this is a sample, I'm going to link that up, or since it's a statistic, I'm going to link that up with the sample. So I don't want to know in the statistic the average credit hours for the whole class. I want to know the average number of credit hours that are taken by the 6 selected students. Okay, like that's it. Now, notice that this would actually be a really easy thing to go do. Like if I was to go out and ask 6 of you to tell me what number of credit hours you're taking, I could get all 6 of those values together and I could actually compute an average. But the only way I would ever be able to get the average credit hours for the whole class is to ask every single one of you and get those responses. So I can go ahead and I can imagine what it would be like to write a descriptive and an inferential statistics sort of a statement. In these last 2 boxes, I just want you to make up some statement that sounds descriptive or sounds inferential. You don't have to use any specific numbers. You can almost make numbers up off the top of your head, kind of like we made up this value of 6. Let's take a look at a possible descriptive statement. Maybe I could state something like, how about, maybe instead of only, maybe I'll write something like this. I'll say the average number of credit hours for the 6 students is 13.4 credit hours. Okay, again, I'm just making up that number of 13.4. I didn't get that 13.4 from anywhere. You don't have to worry about the 13.4. You could literally put any number in the world there. The goal is not about the green number. The goal is, does this statement simply state a fact? The average number of credit hours for the six students is 13.4 credit hours. Sure. You don't like 13.4? Put in 15. Put in 2. Put in 7. Okay. Now I'm going to make an inferential sounding statement. Remember that an inferential statement would say, based on what I know, can I make an educated guess about the population and the parameter of the population? So maybe I could say like this. I could say something like, we predict, based on the sample statistic of 13.4 credit hours, right? So I'm making a prediction based on what I know that the average number of credit hours for all students in the class is, I don't know, how about 12 credit hours? Again, please don't get hung up on the 12. The 12 is just like the value of the 13. It's not significant. It's just, and I'm trying to make a statement that says, look, I understand what inferential stats means. It means I'm going to take a value and make a prediction. That's it. So please don't try to focus too much on the green numbers. There's always a couple people that seem to get really hung up on like, well, how do I know what the right number is? There is no right number yet. We haven't talked about how to make those predictions. For the moment, I just want to know that you understand the difference between doing something descriptive and doing something inferential. Now, this sort of a question is going to be repeated down here on example number 5. And I'm not going to go through example number 5 here in these videos. In fact, I'm going to leave example number 5 as one for you to try to figure out and to try to work through. In here, I give you some information to help you try to understand maybe what you could write for a sample and for descriptive and inferential statistic statements. But I'm going to ask that you try to look here at example number 5 and see how well you can do on it. And of course, remember that all of our solutions are going to be posted up in Blackboard. All those solutions are going to be posted on the calendar page on the lecture notes link that is listed there.